All right, before I start, turn your paper over, grab your pen, and write something down real quick. First thing I want you to write down is assuming that you are in business for yourself. And if you're still working for somebody else, assume what your best client is worth the first time you meet them. If they walked in, they did the thing you want them to do, signed up for your MLM, signed up for your coaching program, became a client right away, bought 10 cups of coffee, hired you for IT service, what would that client be worth on the first transaction? Write that number down.
Just the first transaction?
First transaction. One transaction. Okay? Now assume you saw that customer on the regular cycle of your transaction. So for an example, in an IT guy, you might say the first time I'm going to set up your infrastructure, I'm going to make sure that all your wireless devices work and they're compatible with each other, etc., etc. But I'm also going to come in once a month and do a maintenance thing. And if you have a crash, or you get a virus, or your CD drive stops working, I'm going to come in and fix that. So there's a regular plan to do that, or there's an XYZ per hour to do that. So if you know what that client's ongoing value is to you, weekly, monthly, whatever, extrapolate that per year, put that number down. So if they're a coaching client, for an example, first time you see them, it might be worth 150 bucks. But you're going to see them once a month, every month, for a year, 18 months, whatever it's going to be, put that price down there. The 150 bucks a month, for an example, is $1,800 a year. So you want to know what that number is, you want to know what that value is. Now, we're not talking about the lifetime value of a client. We're talking about just building a reasonable modicum of a relationship, right? We're not talking about anything grand or extravagant. Now, let me ask you this question. What is it that you have to do to convert that client from someone you know to someone who buys from you? There are 3 words that I'm looking for. If you've ever heard the name Bob Burg, you know what those 3 words are. What do you got to build? Rapport is one of them. That's kind of a consuming word for all 3.
Trust.
That's one of the 3, yes. They got to like you. What is the other one?
That you know you.
They got to know you. So write those 3 words down if you don't know those off the top of your head. In order to convert someone from an acquaintance to a client, they must know, like, and trust you. Know, like, and trust. Now, in order to build know, like, and trust with someone, what is it that you have to do for yourself in front of them for them to do that? What do they have to do to know you?
Effectively communicate.
You have to effectively communicate. What else do you have to do?
Provide value.
I'm sorry?
Provide value.
Provide value. And maybe not as much provide it right away, but as to demonstrate it, right? They have to know that you have value to offer. Even if you don't give it all to them right there, you got to at least peekaboo, right? What would you call that? It's illegal in most states. Expose yourself. Expose yourself, right? So you want to expose yourself. And when you expose yourself, do people know you better?
Yes.
Absolutely. Do they like you? Think about that for a moment.
It just depends on the way that you're doing it.
That's exactly right. Now, how many of you have been to a network meeting where someone gets up to talk and they have the floor for 5 minutes and they talk for 20?
Yeah.
And what do you call that?
Overexposure.
That's exactly right. Overexposure. They just yakety, yakety, yakety. You're like,
You're taking advantage of my time.
that's exactly right. You're stealing my time from me. I can't get that time back. And you added no value to my life. I've learned absolutely nothing from you. Will you please shut up? All right, now, what if you went one step further than that and said, when you expose yourself, and you have to ask them, are you going to like me at the end of this? What's the next word we're trying to build? Trust. If they like you, will they trust you?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Do you think there's a way, and you said the key word earlier, effectively communicate with them. Do you think there's a way to effectively communicate in such a manner that at the end, they know more about you, you've exposed yourself a little bit, they like you, and what is the key to like? Who do you hang out with when you're not here?
Wife, kids, mentor.
Okay. Besides those people who are pouring into your life or deeply, intimately connected with you, who do you hang out with?
Myself.
That's it? You hang out with friends?
Yeah, I got friends.
What is it about your friends that makes them your friend? Is it you work together, you live near each other, you work out together, you play games together?
A few of them grew up together, sports, things like that.
So you have things in common.
Right.
Everybody catch that word? In common. Now, how much do you think you and I have in common?
A little bit. Somewhat.
Name 1 or 2 things you think might be in common.
Well, that I'm looking to get into motivational speaking, and you're already doing it, so
Okay.
that's something that's.
Right, there's some common ground there. Okay, what else?
Learning, I mean, you read a lot, I read a lot.
You're missing one huge obvious one.
Oh, marriage.
I earned that, buddy. I earned that. 20 years, baby. You know what I'm saying? 20 years and 4 kids. I have earned every ounce of it. Did you get yours for free? You didn't get it come in a Cracker Jack box either, did it? There's some pain and some torment that went into
Let's
that.
wait and see.
Right? How many of you had one of those? Or ever had one? So you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
All right, so if I were to say something like, we're standing in the shower together. We have done this every day that we can for going on 20 years. I stand in my spot and I soak myself down, and I'm a big fella, so I take up most of the shower. When I finish soaking myself down, I step aside and let the water spray on her, and while I'm washing my hair and shaving my face, she does her thing. And in this moment, we connect. We talk about all the intimate details. We talk about the bills, we talk about the taxes, we talk about the sick puppy that just died. We talk about all of those things. This is our place to be completely vulnerable with each other. I mean, we're stark naked, there's nothing to hide, right? And yet in almost 20 years, standing in that spot, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, on a captured space, no bigger than where I'm standing right now, not once has she told me that when I said to her, I can't believe you ironed my shirt and the crease doesn't line up with the sleeve. I mean, there's a seam under there. That crease is supposed to line up with that. But you guys been in the military before. You iron that shirt, you're looking for that crease, right? You want to see that sucker pop. You want to know what's there. And it better be straight with that seam, not some candy cane looking thing going all the way around the arm, right? We were married about a week, first time she ironed a shirt. And it looked like I had 2 candy canes on my arm. And I went to her and I said, do me a favor, don't iron my shirts again. Guess what she hadn't done in 20 years?
Iron shirts.
So yesterday I asked her, why is it that you feel so judged by me when you do something wrong? What do you think her answer was?
Because the shirts.
All right. You've heard it said, and I'm going to tell you right now it's an absolute fact. Women do not get hysterical as often as they get historical. Am I right?
Yes.
They get into that relationship and you say something that offends them or hurts them, and they don't go back to yesterday. They go back to yesterday. You know what I'm saying? They go way back in. And so in that relationship, in that moment, she's telling me, here's what you said, here's what you did, and here's how it hurt me. Now, how many people have paid a therapist to try to fix their marriage? A lot of people have. A lot of people have been to a counselor, they've asked that question, they've sought someone out for advice, and they don't always get the advice that they want. But the key to getting that advice isn't necessarily seeking it outside, it's one-on-one communication. It's being open, it's being transparent, it's seeing what you think, and it's listening closely. What I'm asking you guys to do while I'm up here for the next few minutes is to listen closely. I'm going to give you some keys that work every single time, without fail. How many of you ever worked on your car? Okay? How many ways are there to put a crankshaft in a car? 52? No, there's one. And if you don't do it that one way, it ain't going to work. There's one way to make a cupcake. And you got to start with the little pan in there, and the little paper cupcake sleeve in there. And I don't care what you put in there after that. It could be meatloaf, it could be spaghetti and meatballs, it could be cookie dough. When it's done, it's going to be a cupcake of some sort. Because you started with a muffin pan and the little paper cupcake thing. What I'm going to teach you tonight is a format for telling a story that will have the same effect. Every single time you'll have a cupcake of a story. Now, what are some things that you noticed about my story in the isolation of standing in the shower with my wife? Let's talk about some of the specifics in there, and then I'm going to point out some things to you maybe you didn't notice. What are some specific things that you noticed about that story?
You do it every day you can. So you make a conscious effort to do that.
Okay?
You got detail.
You got detail?
You helped us visualize what was going on.
Okay? What else?
You value your private time with your wife.
Okay?
That's where communication takes place at you guys are talking about all your...
About life.
Yeah.
You're doing life right there. Okay, what else? Compatibility? Yeah. What else?
because you made yourself vulnerable, it helps us to trust you. You're sharing something that's very intimate about your relationship with your wife, and it helps us to really feel a deep connection to you and really pay attention and say, hey, this guy is something that I'd like to know.
Very much, and you're on the right track. So what's the next level of it? What else was in the nuances of that that are specific to this craft? Engagement? What else? Remember when we talk about like, trust? When we talk about like, a lot of people think like means affection. It does mean affection, but it also means similar. Would you agree? See, I don't know your wife. Never met her. I don't know how many kids you got. I don't know how long you've been married. I don't know how old your kids are. All of that is irrelevant. Here's what I do know. If you're in a relationship with another human being, you're going to butt heads. If you're in a relationship with another human being, you're going to have conflict. If you're in a relationship with another human being, communication is absolutely essential. And when you do it on a heart level, and you do it with honesty, and you do it with sincerity, you're going to build strong relationships. And when you fail to do that, you're going to destroy strong relationships. Would you all agree with that statement?
Yes.
Because of that, although you may not be personally endeared to me, you may not necessarily feel affection for me, you know that we are alike. And because that means I understand your position in life, I understand your point in life, the next few things that I have to say as a result of that come a lot more profound, right? Would you agree with that statement? And because I've exposed myself, you know a little bit more about me, you know that we're alike and that we have all dealt with these relationships, marriage, etc. Then you also know that you can trust me to be honest with you about what I'm going to say beyond that. I've already exposed myself to you, and if you're going to expose yourself to me in some ways, you can expect the same vulnerability back and the same level of respect for your thoughts and your personal beliefs. Would you agree? All right. There are 3 E's necessary in telling a story. So write 3 big E's on the side of your page. You're welcome to stay as long as you can afford to, baby.
I want to hear the 3 E's.
Oh, you'll have to come back for that. But if you have 2 minutes, I'll use you as an example. What'd you say your name was?
Joe.
Joe? Come up here for a minute, Joe. Now we're going to assume that we're going to fast forward, say, 6 months, and you have said bye-bye to corporate world, and Joe's working for himself now, and we have Joe's IT company, right?
I can use something.
Okay. Are you going to be doing like more commercial type stuff or more residential type stuff? I mean, are we talking mainframes and networks? Are we talking home PC systems?
We're talking about probably consulting.
Consulting?
Yeah.
Okay. So strategic stuff more than in the background. Ideal client in 10 seconds.
Pro systems.
Perot Systems. All right. Most profitable transaction that you could get with them? A 6-month contract maybe?
Yeah.
A year-long contract? All
I
right.
would take it in too.
A year-long contract on a monthly basis, like a retainer fee.
Retainer.
So a 1-year retainer with Perot Systems. All right. Now let's take that one little nugget of information, and we're going to set that aside. We're going to assume that what you're going to offer them is a general concept of IT consulting as a 1-year retainer. All right. Forget we talked about that. I want you to tell me a story from when you were about 8 years old, and I don't care what it's about. You got a timer? Anybody got a timer? iPhone, iPad, whatever?
Yeah.
Somebody give me 2 minutes running. At the end of 2 minutes, whoever's timing, I want your signal to be that you just start clapping. Everybody in the room will start clapping. That'll be the end of your 2 minutes. Okay? I don't care what you tell me a story about. Just tell me a story that's real about you. Okay? Ready? Timer's ready?
Yep.
Go.
Okay, at 8 years old, started playing my first sports. Started playing football in the neighborhood with the fellas, and basically got banged up, had a few bruises, and I got banged up, had a few bruises, and basically we used to hang out with different kids in different neighborhoods around the community. In my area where I grew up, there were a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, things like that. So basically, at an early age, in my community, I learned how to reroute and avoid those situations. Seeing a lot of my best friends from that age range, 8 all the way up to 12, end up hooked on drugs, get killed, go to the penitentiary. So when dealing with those issues and seeing things like that, it kind of shaped my future as I got older to become more of a solid and well-rounded kid, student, obey my parents, listen to adults and things like that. So as I got older, learning those things from my youth up to now, I can see a lot of youth that I can potentially go out and help them avoid the same things I saw when I was growing up. Being in gangs, dropping out of school, dealing with different issues, not listening to the parents, hanging out, not coming home, stealing, committing all different type of crimes. So, but around that time period, 8 years old, that was the core, because I learned how to do a lot of things. My dad used to take me fishing. I used to be able to go hang out and spend the night with our relatives and just do cool things. One of the things that I wish I would do more.
Great job, Joe. Thank you. You can have a seat. And if you're recording on your iPad, go ahead and start it now. If you're not recording, that's okay.
Whether you recording the time or recording the sound.
Whatever. If you want to record it, Joe, if you'd like to record it, feel free to. Use audio notes.
No.
Oh man, you gotta get audio notes. Audio notes is the best compression system for audio recording on your iDevices. Best one I found. I record hours and it's like 25K.
Wow.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right. I'm running down the field, man. They throw me the ball. And I'm thinking to myself, why are they throwing me the ball? Half the time I don't even catch the ball. And I'm terrified. Everybody out there bigger than me trying to run me over. And I catch the ball and I'm making a few yards and I get pummeled. Now you got to know the neighborhood that I grew up in is a tough spot. There were gangs everywhere. I mean, I was watching my friends dropping like flies. They're dropping out of school, they're getting into gangs, they're getting into trouble, they're hanging out with the wrong people, they're making bad decisions. And at the same time, in this 8-year-old world of mine, I'm watching the conflict on one side as I'm trying to figure out what it means to be a man. Of all of my friends making bad decisions, they're getting the bruises of life. I'm just getting the bruises of a football game. They're getting beat up and knocked out and knocked down, and some of them will never recover. I get bruised up a little bit, but then I get to get up the next day and go fishing with my dad. I get to get up the next day and go hang out with my friends and spend the night with my family. And I learned the valuable lessons that hanging out with the wrong people, playing football with the wrong crowd, running with these drug dealers, hanging with these gangs can threaten your life. But long before it threatens your life, it has the ability to threaten your future. It won't destroy you today necessarily. You may not wake up at 9 dead, but you may wake up at 19 in prison. You may wake up at 29 with half your life behind you, wondering what happened. And that's where I found myself. I was watching the contrast, the bruises I was taking on the football field, and the opportunities that I had with my family. And I was watching my friends take bruises in life that they weren't going to recover from at all. I look back on that now, many years later, and I operate my business with the same integrity that I learned to live by then. You can make decisions now that today you think have no price. They have no penalty. Maybe a couple little bruises here and there, but you save $500 on that IT system. Maybe a couple little bruises here and there, but you're going to walk out of this later with a lot of money in your pocket, right? Wrong. The bad investments, the bad decisions, the bad associations you have now are going to cost you later. Mr. Perot, for the next year, I will stand in that gap and I will watch everything that happens in your IT system. I will watch every investment, every purchase, every system, every diagnostic, and I will look out for the bruises. Now, I'm not going to tell you we're not going to have mistakes. It's going to happen. But you, sir, can go fishing. You can go hang out with your friends because you're going to make a good decision to have me on your team, watching your back, and not out there running around with the other kind of folks that are going to be in here taking your money and then leaving your system to chance. Because that's not what I do. It's not the way I was raised. It's not the way I run my business. How long is that?
247.
247. What do you think as far as effectiveness?
Very effective.
So here's the first E. Before you can tell a story, you have to earn the right. You've got to earn the right to tell the story. Now, there's a couple of ways to earn the right. The first of which is I lived it, I experienced it, it's my story, it's my life. The second is I was an eyewitness. I was there when it happened. Maybe it didn't happen to me, but I was standing there when I watched it happen. Now, I can just as easily tell the story about Tim's wife coming down the aisle as Tim can, because I was there, because I played the music. I started it when it started, I stopped it when it stopped. He was an eyewitness to my work, but it was his wedding. Whose story is it? Yes, it's both of ours. His wife can tell the same story. She's earned the same right to tell it. The next part of that, though, is eager. The second E is eager. You've got to earn the right, and you've got to be eager. See, earning the right to a story doesn't necessarily mean it's something you want the whole world to know about. My wife at 19 years old was date raped for 7 hours across 3 state lines at knife point and at gunpoint. I learned about it in the shower. Very few people in the world know it. I tell that story as an illustration right here. She doesn't tell that story at all. Barely told it to our 2 daughters. She's not eager to talk about it. Has she earned the right? Yeah, you better believe it. She has earned the right. She's been forced to do things she has no intention of ever doing again. Had no intention of doing it then, but for a knife to her head, or a knife to her throat, or a gun to her head. She has earned the right. She is not eager to tell about it. Now, how many of you know somebody who has earned the right to tell a story, and they don't even be eager to tell about it? In fact, they don't even want to shut up about it. And they stand there like this, and they tell you the whole story, and you feel like Bueller. You know what I'm talking about. It's so boring where they can't articulate the story. They don't know where to start and where to end. So they just start somewhere 20 minutes before the story starts, and they end somewhere 20 years after it's over. You remember John Candy and Steve Martin in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Anybody remember that movie?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. 2 of my favorite quotes come from that movie. One of them is, "Those were not pillows." Maybe y'all remember that movie? Mm-hmm. And the other one was, the next time you feel it's necessary to tell one of these little stories of yours, do me a favor and have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener. You know people who have told stories and they just keep talking and they just keep talking and they just keep talking, and you're going, I know somewhere when you started that you had an end. Right? There was a reason you started that story. I just can't figure out what it is. The reason that I'm here tonight is that I know for a fact that every story, you can draw a little circle if you want to, make a little pie chart. And I'll let you decide where it's divided, but I'm going to tell you that every one of those pie charts is the story of your life, and it has 3 parts. You divide it however you want to. One of those parts is the was, the past. What used to be, that year or 2 or 10 or 40 that you'll never get back again. The next part is the is, the one you're living in right now. That's the part of the story that at this moment in time is the most relevant, because it's really the only one that you know. And the third part is the is to come. The was, the is, and the is to come. And here's what most people will not tell you about storytelling, and that is, bless you, you have the right, more than the right, you have the responsibility to tell the story of your life that no one else sees coming. How many of you yesterday would have said, tomorrow at 7 o'clock I'll be sitting here listening to a guy tell stories? Anybody? I knew I'd be here. It's been on my calendar for about 2 months.
I knew he was coming.
You didn't know I was coming.
I knew you'd be here.
So the rest of you had no idea what was coming, but see, when you script it out, whether it's in your calendar, or it's in the story, or it's the business plan that you write for your life, how many of you lost customers last year? Raise your hand, be honest if you lost customers last year. How many of you did it by choice? I did. I fired a bunch of them. Straight up fired them. What do you mean you don't want to pay me $100 an hour? You were talking to the wrong dude. You need to go find one of them other guys. There are 455 DJs in Dallas. 75 of us are full-time professional entertainers. That means the other 300 and something are the guys that said, I lost my job, I'll go to the pawn shop, I'll go buy me some DJ equipment. And he's standing there right next to the guy who yesterday was flipping burgers at McDonald's, and today he's mowing lawns, and he's a landscaper because he has a weed eater too. Right? You don't know jack about grass. Couldn't tell you a crap out from grubworm. But he's going to be your horticulturist. Probably can't even pronounce the word. You got the same problem with DJs, because all they have to do is run to the pawn shop, buy some equipment. Now they're all of a sudden they're in business. There's no barrier to entry. We have the same problem in coaching, folks. There was nothing stopping a guy from raising his hand, throwing up his shingle, going, I'm a coach. I spent almost 10 grand last year on training to become better qualified to do what I do. I've invested thousands, literally thousands of hours doing research, studying brain science by Dr. Caroline Leaf, studying professional coaching with Christian Simpson and John Maxwell, with Paul Martinelli. The list goes on and on. James Malinchak, Laurel Langmeyer, Craig Duswald, Rich Sheffrin, Brendan Richard. These are the people that I've paid in the last year or two to study and to know what I do. I don't give you advice that I've made up on my own. It has been well documented, well researched from 1904 till today. I have read everything I get my hands on to make sure that what I'm telling you is solid. What I've just given you, those 3 E's, are the core teaching. The 3rd E, by the way, if you didn't write that down, is enthusiasm. You don't want to stand up here and tell a story that's boring. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, what I've just given you, those 3 E's, is about 20% of what I teach when it comes to storytelling. Eric has already signed up for the event on April the 27th. I'll be at the Comfort Inn and Suites in Addison. The cost of those tickets are 99 bucks. If you come to that course, here's what you will walk away with. You will walk away with multiple opportunities to stand at the front of the room, to tell your story, to have people pound on that story and say, here's where I think you can add this, and this would make me feel a little more comfortable. Now, you said you've been previously married, but you're not currently married. Is that correct? So you have been married in the past?
Yeah.
Have you ever been married?
No.
Never been married?
No.
Do you even relate to that story that I told?
No.
You understand the dilemma there?
I relate. I've never been married, but I relate to it just because, like, me and my lady, we do that.
Okay.
You
You don't have to give us the details.
Because I've been to showers multiple times.
All right, now think about that for a moment. There's a story that I tell that has been crafted since I went to the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2011. I stood on stage in front of 1,500 people, one of 20 contestants out of 35,000 originals. And I told a story in front of that audience that left all of them gasping and many of them crying. That story will not work in front of one audience. There's one audience that I tell it and their eyes roll back in their head and they go, oh my God, kill me now. Teenage boys, they don't get it. I talk about daddies and daughters. And if you've never been a daddy and you've never had a daughter, or you've never been a daughter with a daddy, you don't get it. You can't get it. There's nothing alike you in that story. That's just a reality. So I can tell a story about married couples and he goes, blah, 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 blah. But I can tell stories about being in the military and he's going to get it. Because in that place where, like, there are going to be those things. You're in an MLM? Who else? You're in an MLM? There are things about potential downline people that you look at, and the minute they walk in the room, you go, no way, baby, you're not on my team. I do not want you anywhere around my team. You're a leech for information. You're going to suck all of my customers and my downline out, and then you're going to corrupt their ideas and destroy my downline. I don't want you there. Get out. Okay? There's a way to tell your story that will make that happen for you. There's a way to tell your story with words embedded in it that when they hear them, they go, that's not the guy for me. And you know what? That's a good thing. There's also a way to tell that story that people go, that's the guy I want to work with. Of all the people that I've met, that's the one. Nobody else does what he does the way that he does it, and I like that. You understand what I'm saying? What is the secret weapon of a coach?
You know your personnel.
The gauntlet. Throw down that gauntlet. If I make it hard for you to do business with me, you gotta want it. And if you don't want it, that's good, because I know you're not gonna waste my time. What'd you say, Joe? My time is valuable. You're not gonna get my time to waste it. You're not willing to step over that hurdle. And I know you're gonna be there on the 27th. You already invested your money.
It's gonna be at the same place as last time.
Same place as last time. So, if you're interested in doing that, see me when we're done. But here's the main key I want you to take away with. There is nothing in this world that will endear you to another person like being true, honest, and authentic about yourself. Nothing has the power to ring forever in your heart like a word spoken at the right time. And nothing has the power to change your life like a word that rings forever in your heart. Thank you.